The eighth installment in the Conjuring universe is the upcoming movie, The Devil Made Me Do It. The story is based on the true case of Arne Cheyenne Johnson and his murder trial. It was the first known case in U.S. history in which the defense sought to prove innocence based on the defendant's claim of demonic possession. According to Discovery Channel's A Haunting, Arne Johnson and Debbie Glatzel had asserted that the paranormal activity began after they went to clean up a rental property that they had just acquired. Debbie's younger brother, the 11-year-old David Glatzel, claimed that he saw an old man who kept pushing him around. However, the couple thought he was using it as an excuse to avoid cleaning. However, the old man threatened David, vowing to harm the Glatzels if they had moved into the rental home. While no one other than David witnessed the old man, they would hear strange noises coming from the attic. David would also experience night terrors, strange behavior and unexplained scratches and bruises which were found all over his body. They first called the Catholic priest to bless the house. However, David's visions would only worsen as he would become the first person to be possessed by the demon. After seeing many ominous occurrences involving David, the family decided to enlist Ed and Lorraine Warren to cure David of this possession. Lorraine had allegedly seen a black mist materialize next to David during their first encounter, which is an indication of malevolent presence. The Glatzels recounted that each night, one person would remain awake while David suffered spasms and convulsions. David had started to growl, hiss, speak in otherworldly voices, and recite passages from the Bible. Along with the Glatzel family, the Warrens proceeded to have multiple priests petition the church to have a formal exorcism performed on David. After receiving a prognosis of multiple possessions from the Warrens, David was subjected to 3 lesser exorcisms which continued for several days till the demon fled the body of the child and possessed Johnson, according to those present. Lorraine claimed that David had levitated, ceasing to breathe at times, and had predicted the murder that Johnson would soon commit. In October 1980, the Warrens contacted the Brookfield police to warn them that the situation was becoming very dangerous. According to eyewitness testimony, Arne Johnson coerced one of the demons purportedly within David to possess him while participating in David's exorcisms. It is said that several days after Arne egged on the demon during the exorcism, he was attacked by the demon. It had supposedly taken control of his car and had tried to have him killed by forcing it into a tree, but fortunately Arne was unharmed. Arne had also claimed that after the car incident, he had returned to the rental property to examine an old well which was supposedly housed by the demon. His final encounter with the demon involved meeting it and making eye contact, which enabled him to become possessed by it. The Warrens had claimed to have warned him not to do it beforehand. Since David's condition continued to worsen, they moved out of their mother's home. Debbie would then be hired by Alan Bono, a new resident of Brookfield, to be a dog groomer. They rented an apartment close to her place of employment. However, when they had moved in, Arne had started to exhibit odd behavior which was similar to David. He would fall into a trance-like state, where he would growl and have no memory of the incident later on. On February 16, 1981, Arne called in sick that day and joined Debbie at the kennel she worked at, along with his sister Wanda and Debbie's 9-year-old cousin Mary. The couple's landlord and Debbie's employer at the kennel, Alan Bono, bought the group lunch at a local bar and proceeded to drink heavily. The group returned to the kennel after lunch. Debbie then took the girls to get pizza and insisted that they return quickly, anticipating trouble when they got back. Alan, who was intoxicated at this point, became agitated. Debbie asked everyone to leave the room at Debbie's urging. However, Alan held on to Mary and refused to let go. Arne came back into the room and ordered Alan to release Mary. According to Wanda's accounts, Mary ran for the car as Debbie attempted to handle the situation by standing between both men. While Wanda had tried to pull Arne away from the situation, he did not listen and her efforts were in vain. Arne started growling like an animal, drew a 5-inch pocket knife and stabbed Alan 20 times. Alan would go on to die several hours later. He had suffered tremendous wounds to his chest, with one stretching from his stomach to the base of his heart. Arne would be caught 2 miles away from the site. This would become the first murder in the history of Brookfield, Connecticut. The trial would begin on October 28, 1981 in Connecticut's Superior Court in Danbury. According to Ed and Lorraine Warren, the demon had forced Johnson to kill Allen. While his defense lawyer attempted to submit a plea of not guilty by virtue of possession for killing his landlord, the judge did not agree. The judge ruled that such a defense could never be proven and could not be feasible in the court of law. This is why the trial would be known as the demon murder trial. Despite this, the defense chose to imply that Johnson had acted in self-defense. The jury was not legally allowed to consider demonic possession in their judgment as a viable explanation for murder. They would go on to deliberate for 15 hours over the course of 3 days before convicting Arne on first-degree manslaughter on November 24, 1981. While Johnson was convicted, he would go on to only serve 5 out of the 10 to 20-year sentence. This case had attracted a lot of media attention from all corners of the world when it happened. As such, it gained so much notoriety through its numerous depictions in literature and television. Soon this case will be shown in the new iteration set in the Conjuring universe. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, is scheduled for release in the US on June 4, 2021. Thanks for tuning in. Please like and share this video. Subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell for updates on new videos. Please also join my Patreon and help support this channel. Thanks. Hope to see you guys next time.